Dealing with difficult people can be one of the most challenging experiences in our lives. No matter where you are, whether in the workplace, within your family, or among your circle of friends, there is always someone who seems to be in constant conflict with others. These situations can create immense emotional strain, and the feeling of being drained by someone else's negativity is common. However, what we learn from spiritual practices and philosophies, especially from traditions like Buddhism, is that true inner peace does not depend on others' behavior. Genuine serenity originates from within us, and how we react to situations is what ultimately defines our experience. When we begin to cultivate calmness from within, regardless of the chaos around us, we start to see that instead of reacting with anger, frustration, or fear, we can look at difficult people through a new lens. In Buddhism, the central idea is that others are not responsible for our inner peace, but how we handle them, and the situations they bring is what truly shapes our experience. Seeing a difficult person as an opportunity for personal growth can be the key to transforming an uncomfortable situation into a lesson of wisdom. Instead of fighting against someone's negative behavior, the first step is realizing that what happens around us is, in fact, a reflection of what is going on inside of us. 1. Don't take it personally. Often, when we are confronted by someone who hurts us with words or actions, the tendency is to believe that it is a direct attack on us. The feeling of being wronged, disrespected, or even ignored can consume us. But deep down, what someone says or does reflects more about their internal state than about who we truly are. When someone yells or criticizes, they are simply expressing the pain they carry within themselves. This doesn't mean their behavior is justified, but by understanding this, we can choose not to absorb the impact of those words and actions. Instead of reacting with anger, if you pause for a moment and take a deep breath, you create space to prevent external negativity from entering your inner peace. When you realize that another person's anger, fear, or sadness is not a reflection of your worth, the need to justify or defend yourself diminishes. At that moment, silence becomes a powerful tool. By choosing not to absorb other people's words or actions, you remain centered and calm, which strengthens your inner peace. This response is not indifference. Rather, it is a deep and conscious form of self-care. Over time, this becomes a habit that not only changes the way you react to difficult situations, but also transforms your relationship with the world around you. 2. Protect your energy with awareness. In such a challenging world, it's essential to learn how to protect your energy. We've all experienced times when, after a difficult conversation or interaction, we feel drained, empty, as though we've given away all our vitality to something or someone who didn't deserve it. In Buddhism, one of the most powerful practices is visualizing an energetic shield around you that helps you face the world with balance and serenity, without being sucked into the negativity of others. Before entering a potentially challenging situation, like a difficult meeting or an encounter with someone who tends to bring tension, you can create this mental, energetic shield. Imagine yourself enveloped in a soft, warm light that reflects any negativity, without allowing it to enter your field. This energetic shield is not a barrier of rejection, but rather a form of self-respect and protection. It allows you to be present fully, without losing yourself in the chaos of others. Additionally, by visualizing this protective sphere, you begin cultivating a state of awareness that strengthens your connection with yourself and with the present moment. When you realize how this simple practice can change the way you face the world, you become aware that you don't need to open yourself up to everything happening around you. This doesn't mean you are withdrawing or being indifferent. On the contrary, you are respecting yourself and caring for your mental and emotional health, which allows you to be more present and available for what truly matters. 3. The power of conscious silence. Often in confrontational situations, our first instinct is to speak, defend ourselves, justify our actions, or even try to convince the other person that we are right. However, in the Buddhist path, we learn that silence can be the wisest and most effective response. When someone provokes us or tries to draw us into an intense argument, often the best course of action is simply to take a step back and breathe deeply. This creates the necessary space for a mindful reflection on how we should respond. Breathing before acting is one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves. Silence does not mean passivity or weakness. It is, in fact, a form of silent strength. It allows us to observe without becoming involved, to feel without losing ourselves in emotions. In Buddhism, this moment of pause when we feel the temptation to react is an opportunity to reconnect with our essence, to remind ourselves that true strength does not come from the need to be right or to convince others, but from the ability to maintain our inner peace regardless of external turbulence. Now take a moment to pause and reflect on this power of silence. Sit for a moment and observe the automatic reactions that arise in your mind when faced with difficult situations. How could you respond more serenely and consciously? As we continue this journey of cultivating peace and serenity, we'll explore further practices that help us maintain calmness and clarity even when faced with challenging situations. These practices are rooted in mindfulness and self-awareness, and they provide tools to protect our mental and emotional well-being. It's important to remember that cultivating peace doesn't mean avoiding conflict altogether. It means responding with wisdom, presence, and balance. 4. Practice mindful breathing to ground yourself. When faced with overwhelming emotions or a difficult conversation, one of the simplest yet most powerful tools we can use is mindful breathing. In those moments, our minds often race with anxious thoughts, or we feel the urge to respond immediately in defense. The practice of mindful breathing allows us to regain control of our emotions, creating the space needed to choose our response consciously. Breathing helps us reconnect with the present moment, which is essential when dealing with others' negative energy. Breathing deeply and mindfully is a simple act that calms the mind and brings us back to the present moment. When we focus on our breath, we shift our attention away from external circumstances and return to the body. This immediate connection to the body can help alleviate feelings of stress and overwhelm. In Buddhism, breath is considered a vital tool for mindfulness, as it centers us and grounds us in a reality that's calm and undisturbed by external influences. When we remember to breathe, we remember that we are in control and we can choose to remain calm. You may notice how your body responds differently when you focus on your breath. Your shoulders relax, your heart rate slows down, and your mind becomes clearer. This simple act has the power to prevent unnecessary conflict and save you from the impulse of reacting in anger or frustration. Mindful breathing creates a bridge between our inner peace and the external chaos, offering us an anchor that keeps us steady. 5. Set boundaries with compassion. Setting boundaries is often misunderstood, especially in today's culture of constant connection and the desire to please others. However, setting healthy boundaries is an essential act of self-care, and it is a practice of compassion, not only toward ourselves, but also toward others. When we don't establish boundaries, we may end up sacrificing our well-being, leading to burnout, frustration, and resentment. In Buddhism, setting boundaries is seen as a necessary act of wisdom. It is about knowing our limits and respecting ourselves enough to say no when necessary. Having clear boundaries doesn't mean we're rejecting others or becoming distant. Rather, it means that we are protecting our energy and honoring our needs. Sometimes, when someone is constantly crossing our boundaries, it's necessary to communicate that with kindness and respect. Saying no or I need space can be incredibly empowering, and it shows that we value ourselves and our inner peace. Learning to set boundaries in a compassionate way is one of the most loving actions we can take. It doesn't mean we stop caring about others. Rather, we show that we care about ourselves too. This enables us to remain present in our relationships without losing ourselves. Setting clear boundaries also helps us build stronger, more respectful connections because it encourages others to honor our space and our needs. If you're finding it difficult to set boundaries, remember that this is a skill that requires practice. Start small by learning to say no in situations where you feel discomfort or overwhelm. Over time, you'll find that setting boundaries becomes a natural part of your interactions, and it will help you preserve your energy while still being present for others. 6. Cultivate compassion for yourself and others. Compassion is often thought of as something we extend to others, but true compassion begins with ourselves. In order to offer compassion to those around us, we must first learn to be kind and understanding toward ourselves. This is especially important when we're dealing with difficult people, because we tend to be harder on ourselves when we're faced with conflict. We may think that we should be more patient, more understanding, or more tolerant. However, The truth is, we are all human, and we can only offer compassion to others when we extend it to ourselves first. In Buddhism, compassion is not about feeling pity for others. It's about recognizing their suffering and understanding that everyone has their own pain. When we approach others with compassion, we open ourselves to seeing them as they truly are, not as adversaries but as fellow beings navigating their own struggles. This doesn't mean we accept harmful behavior, but it helps us approach difficult people with more understanding. Start by practicing self-compassion in your own life. When you make mistakes, treat yourself with kindness. When you feel stressed or overwhelmed, remember that it's okay to take a break and care for yourself. This foundation of self-compassion will enable you to extend kindness and understanding to others, even when they are difficult to be around. 7. Avoid the trap of seeking approval from others. Many of us spend a large portion of our lives seeking the approval of others. Whether it's trying to please a difficult colleague or family member, or seeking validation from friends, the desire to be accepted and liked can lead us to lose sight of who we truly are. The pursuit of external approval is one of the primary causes of suffering, as it places our happiness in the hands of others. In Buddhism, we are taught to find approval within ourselves rather than depending on external validation. When we stop seeking approval from others, we liberate ourselves from the cycle of constantly trying to meet others' expectations. Instead of looking for external affirmation, we can focus on cultivating self-acceptance and confidence. This shift is incredibly freeing because it allows us to live authentically, without the need to please anyone else. Think of it as an opportunity to free yourself from the burden of constantly seeking validation. Begin by recognizing your own worth and letting go of the need for others to confirm it. This doesn't mean you stop valuing the opinions of those you care about, but it means you no longer depend on those opinions to define your self-worth. A call to engage. If you found this approach helpful so far, I'd love to hear from you. Drop a comment and share a situation where you've been able to set healthy boundaries or cultivate compassion and how it impacted your relationships. Also, if you feel like these practices could help someone you know, feel free to share this video with them. Not everyone has the tools or knowledge to deal with challenging interactions, and you might be the one who can introduce them to these transformative practices. It's always a joy to know that this community is growing with people who are actively working on their inner peace and kindness toward others. Next, we'll cover the importance of conscious breathing, setting boundaries, cultivating compassion, and letting go of the need for approval from others. I'd love for you to share your thoughts and stories in the comments. How have you applied these practices in your life? Subscribe if you haven't already, and let's continue building this community of peace, understanding, and growth. One of the major sources of frustration in our interactions with others is our expectations. We often expect people to behave in ways that meet our needs or desires, and when they don't, we experience disappointment or even anger. However, in Buddhism, we are reminded that expectations are a form of attachment that causes suffering. We expect others to act according to our ideas of what is right or fair, and when they don't meet those expectations, we suffer. Learning to release expectations is an incredibly freeing practice. When we stop demanding that others behave in ways that align with our own desires, we free ourselves from the disappointment and frustration that so often comes with unmet expectations. This doesn't mean we don't care or that we stop wanting certain outcomes, but it means we let go of the need for control and allow others to be who they are. When we stop clinging to expectations, we can approach situations with a sense of curiosity and openness. We can accept others as they are, rather than constantly trying to shape them into what we think they should be. This is a powerful practice of non-attachment, which is essential for cultivating inner peace. It's not easy, but with mindfulness and patience, it becomes easier over time. 9. Practice the art of non-reactivity. In a world full of triggers and emotional buttons, one of the most powerful tools we can develop is the ability to remain non-reactive. When someone insults us, criticizes us, or challenges us, our immediate instinct is to respond, often in defense or anger. This automatic reaction is driven by our ego, which feels threatened when we're criticized or hurt. However, in Buddhism, we learn that true strength lies in our ability to pause and choose our response, rather than reacting out of impulse. Non-reactivity doesn't mean suppressing our emotions or pretending we don't feel hurt. It means creating space between the stimulus and our response. By taking a moment to pause, breathe, and reflect, we allow ourselves the opportunity to choose how we wish to respond. This practice of non-reactivity requires mindfulness and awareness, as it invites us to observe our thoughts and emotions without becoming identified with them. When we are non-reactive, we break the cycle of reactivity that fuels conflict. We can choose to respond with kindness, compassion, or even silence, rather than engaging in the negative energy of the situation. This practice is liberating because it allows us to stay in control of our actions, rather than being at the mercy of our emotions or the actions of others. 10. Embrace the power of presence. Often in difficult interactions, we become so caught up in our thoughts about what is happening or what might happen next that we lose touch with the present moment. We begin to spiral into anxiety, frustration, or even anger about things that haven't even happened yet. In Buddhism, we are taught to embrace the present moment fully, as it is the only moment where true peace can be found. By grounding ourselves in the present, we become more attuned to what is happening in the here and now. We no longer need to dwell on past conversations or worry about future conflicts. We can simply be present with what is unfolding in front of us, free from the weight of past experiences or future fears. This power of presence allows us to respond to situations with clarity and awareness, instead of reacting from a place of fear or uncertainty. To practice presence, take a few moments throughout your day to simply stop and be fully aware of your surroundings. Notice the sensations in your body, the sounds around you, the thoughts passing through your mind. By becoming fully present, you can begin to detach from the mental chatter that often fuels our negative reactions. The more you practice being present, the more you'll notice how much easier it becomes to stay grounded during difficult interactions. 11. Accept people as they are, not as you want them to be. One of the most challenging aspects of dealing with difficult people is our tendency to try and change them. We often believe that if we can just get someone to see things our way or act differently, everything will improve. However, this desire to change others can create endless frustration and suffering, as it places the burden of our happiness on someone else's behavior. In Buddhism, we are taught to accept people as they are, not as we want them to be. Accepting people as they are doesn't mean we condone harmful behavior or that we allow ourselves to be mistreated. It means we acknowledge that every person is on their own journey, with their own set of challenges and struggles. Instead of trying to control or change others, we can choose to respond with understanding and compassion. By letting go of the need to change others, we free ourselves from the cycle of frustration and disappointment. It's important to remember that we are not responsible for changing anyone else. We are only responsible for our own actions and how we respond to others. This understanding brings peace and clarity to our relationships, as we no longer try to force others to meet our expectations. Instead, we can focus on our own growth and find peace in accepting others as they are. 12. Cultivate wisdom through reflection. One of the most powerful ways to maintain serenity in difficult situations is through reflection. Reflection allows us to step back and observe our own reactions, thoughts, and behaviors, which can provide valuable insight into our patterns and tendencies. In Buddhism, reflection is an essential part of the path to wisdom, as it helps us identify where we may be holding on to attachments, resentments, or outdated beliefs. When we take time to reflect on our experiences, we begin to see things more clearly. We gain a deeper understanding of why we react the way we do and how we can respond more skillfully in the future. Reflection is not about judging ourselves. It's about observing with kindness and curiosity. Through regular reflection, we can learn from our mistakes, grow in wisdom, and become more adept at navigating the challenges life presents. We've now explored more practices that can help us strengthen our inner peace, including letting go of expectations, practicing non-reactivity, embracing presence, and accepting people as they are. These practices are key to navigating difficult interactions with more grace and wisdom. If you found these insights helpful, don't forget to leave a comment and share how these practices have worked for you. Is there a particular tool you've already been using to maintain your peace during tough times? If you think someone in your life could benefit from this approach, feel free to share this video with them. Sometimes, all it takes is one person to introduce these practices, and it can create a ripple effect of positive change. As we reach the final part of this journey, it's time to reflect on the tools and practices that we've explored and how they can truly transform our interactions with others. By now, you've learned various ways to cultivate inner peace, set boundaries, and engage with others from a place of compassion and mindfulness. However, true peace goes beyond simply reacting better to difficult situations. It's about living from a place of wisdom, where your responses are rooted in love, clarity, and a deep understanding of your own essence. 13. Let go of the need to be right. A key element in many conflicts is our deep attachment to being right. We often find ourselves in heated debates or arguments, convinced that our perspective is the only correct one. But in reality, clinging to being right only strengthens our ego and creates separation between ourselves and others. In Buddhism, the concept of right and wrong is fluid, and peace arises not from winning arguments, but from embracing humility and the understanding that we don't need to be right all the time to have peace. Letting go of the need to be right frees us from the cycle of conflict and allows us to be present in the conversation without needing to prove anything. We can engage in discussions with an open mind, seeking understanding rather than victory. This shift in perspective transforms not only how we communicate, but also the energy we bring to our interactions. By stepping out of the need to be right, we create space for others to share their perspectives, and we open ourselves to learning and growth. 14. Embrace vulnerability as strength. Another profound practice in dealing with difficult people is embracing vulnerability. For many, vulnerability is seen as a weakness, a trait to be hidden and protected. However, in Buddhism and many spiritual practices, vulnerability is recognized as a strength, the ability to be open, to show our true selves without fear of judgment. When we embrace vulnerability, we create deeper connections with others, and we allow ourselves to be more authentic. Vulnerability means being honest about our feelings, acknowledging our imperfections, and allowing ourselves to be seen as we are. It's the courage to say, I am human, I make mistakes, and I'm willing to learn from them. When we practice vulnerability, we disarm the tension in our interactions. We no longer need to hide behind defensiveness or pride, and instead, we can engage with others from a place of true connection. This doesn't mean we allow others to mistreat us, but rather we approach difficult situations with an open heart, understanding that our own humanity is something to be celebrated, not feared. 15. Understand that everyone is fighting their own battles. One of the most transformative perspectives we can adopt is to remember that everyone we encounter is fighting their own battles. No one is exempt from suffering, pain, or confusion. Even the most difficult people often carry unseen burdens, fears, insecurities, or unresolved trauma. When we recognize that everyone has their own struggles, it becomes easier to respond with compassion instead of anger. In Buddhism, this understanding is rooted in the practice of loving kindness, metta, where we send positive thoughts and well wishes to all beings, knowing that we all share in the experience of suffering. When we approach others with this understanding, we break the cycle of judgment and create a space for healing. Even if someone's behavior is hurtful or challenging, we can choose to see beyond their actions and remember that their pain is driving their behavior. Instead of taking their actions personally, we can offer compassion by silently acknowledging their pain. This doesn't mean we accept harmful behavior, but it helps us approach others with a sense of understanding instead of reacting in anger or frustration. 16. Practice gratitude. Even in difficult situations, gratitude is a powerful tool for transforming difficult situations into opportunities for growth. When we practice gratitude, we shift our focus from what's wrong or challenging to what's good in our lives. In every interaction, no matter how difficult, there is something to be grateful for. Perhaps it's the lesson we learned, the strength we developed, or the patience we cultivated. Gratitude helps us maintain a positive outlook and prevents us from becoming bogged down by negativity. By practicing gratitude, we also begin to notice the blessings that exist even in moments of discomfort. This doesn't mean we should ignore our emotions or pretend everything is fine, but by focusing on what we are grateful for, we create space for peace to enter. In moments of tension or conflict, take a deep breath and reflect on the positive aspects of the situation, however small they may seem. Gratitude will help you shift your mindset and maintain your inner peace. 17. Nurture your connection to the present moment. As we conclude this journey, it's essential to remember that the key to true serenity lies in our ability to stay connected to the present moment. In the rush of daily life and the constant stream of thoughts and distractions, we often forget that peace is found in the here and now. The past is gone, the future is uncertain, and the only moment we truly have is the present one. Mindfulness practices teach us to become aware of our thoughts, emotions, and surroundings without judgment. The more we practice being present, the less affected we are by external circumstances. When we are rooted in the present, we are less likely to react impulsively to difficult people or situations. Instead, we respond with clarity and mindfulness. Remember, the present moment is your gateway to peace. By choosing to live fully in the now, you remove the mental clutter and regain control over your emotional state. As we conclude this journey of exploring how to maintain peace with difficult people, remember that the path to serenity isn't about avoiding conflict, but about transforming the way we respond to it. The true power lies within us, in our ability to control our reactions, embrace vulnerability, and let go of the need to control others. By practicing mindfulness, compassion, and non-reaction, we can shift from being reactive to proactive, from being overwhelmed to being centered. These practices, whether it's breathing deeply in the heat of the moment, setting healthy boundaries with kindness, or choosing to simply be present, are the tools that allow us to build a peaceful life, no matter the chaos around us. As we cultivate these habits, we not only protect our own peace, but also create an environment of calm and understanding for those around us. Remember, peace is not something we find once and for all. It is something we practice every day. It's the small moments of mindfulness, the quiet strength of choosing compassion, and the grace of accepting things as they are. When we let go of expectations, control, and the need for external validation, we find freedom. Freedom to live authentically and to respond with wisdom, patience, and love. If you found value in these practices, we'd love to hear your thoughts. Share your experiences in the comments. How have these tools helped you maintain your peace? And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel for more insights and inspiration as we continue on this journey together. Thank you for being here, and remember, the path to peace starts within. Keep cultivating it, and it will reflect in every interaction and in every corner of your life.